Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's talk about NVIDIA stock. Let's talk about what is happening with the stock, what we can expect moving into what will be a pretty massive week next week, of course, with NVIDIA earnings coming out next week on Wednesday, pretty much a week from today, actually. So I'll give you my thoughts moving forward. And yeah, if you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, technical analysis, etc., I do have a membership section on YouTube where I share my thoughts, post updates every single day, mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks as well. And for $5 a month, you get access to all that plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. But jumping into it, NVIDIA closing the day down, unfortunately, 1.3%, closing at $146.27 per share, which is going to be an underperformance to the market. Potentially printing a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle on the daily. And yeah, I mean, really just semis in general, like, NVIDIA, AMD, TSM, etc. I'm taking a bit of a beating today, not gonna lie. So it is what it is. Now, moving forward, what does this mean for NVIDIA stock moving forward, right? Is this bad? Is it bullish? Is it, bearish? What can we expect? Well, we're going sideways, right? To make it really simple, I mean, we're going sideways. We're not really doing a whole lot right now. We ended up getting closer to the 150 level once again, got rejected once again, and we're essentially just continuing to trade within this sideways kind of mini channel, if you will, right? 144, 145, the main support, and pretty much 149, 150 main resistance. So those are the still, the main two ranges or levels, if you will, that need to break, whether it's up or down, for an actual move in that respective direction. So if, for instance, if we break above about 149 to 150, I expect us to move our way to about 155. And of course, the opposite is true. If we break it below 144 to 145, at the very least, we'll come down to 140. But I think ultimately that will make us go down to about 137 to 135, where I will personally be getting much more interested at actually entering commons as opposed to just selling options, which at the moment is all I'm doing. So what does this also mean moving forward despite that? Well, let's take a look at something, right? I've been looking at historical performance for NVIDIA, how it performs leading into earnings. And I've noticed something interesting. Now, I'm not going to say this is going to happen for sure or it's not going to happen for sure. I'm not saying anything like that whatsoever. But one thing that I have noticed that's interesting is anytime NVIDIA has went sideways into earnings recently. So for instance, let's take a look at the most recent earnings that happened back here. Massive little run up, sideways action into earnings, and then massive fall. Okay, right? That's one example. Let's take a look at another example. Earnings all the way back here. In this case, it actually was quite the opposite. In this case, it actually kind of went sideways into earnings, but then it had a massive gap up, right? Here, it sold off aggressively into earnings into a massive gap up. And here, it also kind of sold off / went sideways, but slightly sold off into earnings. Oh, sorry, it didn't sold off. It went sideways into earnings and then into a massive sell-off post earnings. And then here, you can see it ended up actually kind of selling off slightly into earnings with a nice little one-day gap up into earnings, and then it kind of went sideways. So I guess what I'm trying to say is what I've noticed is the fact that when NVIDIA goes sideways after a massive rally into an earnings, it tends to sell off after that. Or if it sells off into earnings, so for instance, as an example, let's say maybe sometime next week or even, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, we start selling off. Let's say NVIDIA cracks 144 and cracks 145. And let's say it does start heading lower and we start heading our way down to 135, let's just say as an example, right? That to me would actually be unironically bullish. I actually think that that will be a sell-off into earnings. I think that'll be a way to scare people off. And I think NVIDIA will most likely rocket after earnings. But if we somehow continue just going sideways like this, pretty much up into earnings, I will be a little bit cautious because, again, the last time that happened, there was a substantial fall not right after earnings. Right now, doesn't mean it has to happen again. Obviously, that's not how it works, right? This time, for instance, it can absolutely rally. There's absolutely no guarantees and nobody knows. But all we can do is look at the past and just kind of figure out, well, based on the stock's behavior, can we get any indication as to what can happen post earnings? So that's kind of what I see right now, right? Essentially, again, if we go sideways into earnings, I'm a little bit skeptical. If we sell off into earnings, I'm pretty bullish, actually. I'll be pretty bullish, and I think that'll be a pretty, potential decent opportunity. And that's just kind of the way I'm looking at it. Now, another thing I want to pay attention to is going to be this indicator on the top here. You can see it has like a little 3 over here. My goodness, what's going on? A 3 over here, a 2 over here, right? These are, this is an indicator that shows the amount of divergences currently setting up, right? Bearish or bullish divergences, or bearish or bullish hidden divergences. In this case, it's showing bearish divergences, right? So it's showing over here, we went sideways and then we ended up selling off. And now you can see it actually ended up showing one a few days ago, and now we're kind of going sideways. And let's see if we play out this exact same pattern that we did over here, now potentially up here with a similar sell-off, which will also take it pretty much right to my personal sweet spot, if of course it were to happen. Naturally, these are kind of a prediction type thing. It's not, trading is less about predicting. Well, it's a bit of predicting, but it's more reactive based. So again, despite this potentially signaling what's to come, I still think the best way to obviously approach it is we'll just watch for those levels, right? Watch for 144, 145, watch for 149 and 150. Watch for those levels to break, hold, etc. Once one of those snaps, expect to continue move in that respective direction. That's probably the simplest way to put it. But again, just to show these indicators, decent accuracy, same thing happened over here. Massive rally. It showed a bearish hidden divergence in this case it was, and then went sideways into a sell-off. Also pretty much right before earnings. Here, nice little bullish divergence, nice little rally. Bullish divergence, obviously this was in the market was crashing, so it wasn't exactly perfect at the bottom or anything like that, but pretty damn good timing nonetheless. And then we rocketed up as well. Little bit of a bearish divergence up here into a sell-off, right? Same up here, bearish divergence, a little sell-off, bullish divergence, rally. Pretty good indicator. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty spicy indicator. So yeah, take that as you will. But again, this is more of a predictive indicator, right? Divergences aren't perfect and divergences can absolutely get canceled out. There's no question about that. But that's just something to kind of, maybe consider at the very least, in my opinion, while we wait for one of these massive and very important levels to break. Again, 145 versus 150, really just to make it as simple as possible. So watch for those levels and watch and kind of be patient about it as well, in my opinion, because right now all NVIDIA is doing is just soaking in all the premium from the puts and calls that are being most likely bought, while it's essentially doing a whole lot of nothing. Now, going over to options flow, NVIDIA is going to be found on the bearish flow only at 11 million. Again, nothing too crazy, nothing to really write home about, but I do want to make something really clear that towards the end of the day, a lot of puts came in the market, right? A lot of puts towards XPI, QQQ, IWM came in, especially the ones really worth noting are the ones highlighted right here for SPX. 5.6 million and 5.2 million, almost 12 million worth of puts that came in above the ask that are actually out of the money, as decently out of the money, surprisingly. And it's only for December 20th. That's only about a month away. So that's a little bit eyebrow raising. I'm not gonna lie. Clearly someone is expecting something to happen with the market here. Maybe PPI tomorrow can be the instigator, if you will. I don't know for sure, but watch for that. Clearly someone's bearish. Someone with a lot of money is bearish in the markets with a pretty aggressive put that came in on SPX. So let's see how that plays out. Let's see what that ends up entailing essentially for the market. But all that being said and done, NVIDIA, I still think it looks pretty damn good. I still think the fact that it's holding like this is bullish. I really do. I think the stock is definitely bullish. Even if it sells off, even if it does come down over here to, like, let's say 137, even if that happens, I still think it's very, very bullish. The only time I think NVIDIA starts getting bearish if it officially breaks trend. And what is the trend? Simply put, we've been making higher highs, higher lows pretty much every single time, and now we are at a fresh higher high. So essentially, if we ever make a fresh lower low, in other words, breaking that, remember that 130 level I kept mentioning last week, that's to me where the trend starts to shift, and we most likely will get a play that looks something like this potentially, which could get very bearish very quickly. So up until as long as 130 is overall maintained and we don't set a fresh lower low, stock is bullish. The stock is bullish. Absolutely, no question about it. And if you're a bear and you've been waiting for like the longest time ever to short this stock because you're just so mad that it's so high up, in my opinion, the only way the bears can, the best opportunity for a bear to enter would be if NVIDIA first breaks 130, comes down, you wait for that bounce, you take the Fibonacci, for instance, you go like this, and you wait for that bounce to come in somewhere to, I mean, I drew it almost perfectly, to the 618 rough level, and then you short it here down to, all the way down. That is to me right here, assuming this scenario plays out, of course, is the optimal bear entry. Now, whether or not that'll play out is a completely different question, of course, but that's for the bearish side. For the bullish side, again, pretty much entering around this kind of 135, 137, not financial advice, just my opinion, is a very good place to potentially, start eyeballing a nice juicy entry, as long as we do not make a lower low. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Let me know what you think down below. And as usual, I'll see you for the next one. Peace.